In the headlines,
women complain of poor quality of sanitary pads. Increase in cases of attempted suicide in Kenya. Unequal pay is a form of gender discrimination. And finally, freedom of religious expression at risk. Hello and welcome live from CR7 TV. I am Njambi and we welcome our viewers from Kenya and around the world. We are with you for the next 30 minutes. Thank you for joining us. This is the Connective Room. You can join the conversation on our social media handles on Twitter at The Connective Room using the hashtag The Connective Room. Women share nasty experience with substandard always sanitary pads in Kenya. Are they safe or not? This is a question on the minds of many women who use always pads in the country. Since February, Kenyan women have been complaining about the quality of the pads that Procter & Gamble, the manufacturer of always pads, distributes in Kenya. Hundreds of women thronged social media to complain and gave several examples on why they think that the pads they use in Kenya are not the same quality as those developed in Western countries. Our correspondent, Njambi, has more for you.
Procter & Gamble were forced to respond through a newly created Twitter page and defend their pads in Kenya, saying that the quality is similar to those in other parts of the world. They tweeted, "The Always Ultra pads we have in Kenya are similar to the Always pads in other parts of the world, including Germany, United Kingdom, United States, and South Africa. All our pads, including the ones in Kenya, are designed and developed in Europe and in the United States." The manufacturer added, "The needs of our women and girls in Kenya are our number one priority, and we recognize that our consumers have evolving needs, which is why we have introduced our new product, Always Soft, which has a softer and more comfortable feel on the skin." They also gave a link on their Twitter page where consumers could go and compare the products, but Kenyan women would hear none of this, accusing the Always manufacturer of always ignoring their concerns on one too many occasions. My name is Njambi and thanks for watching CR7 TV. This is the Connective Room.
The number of suicides reported in Kenya rose by 58% between 2008 and 2017 to reach 421, official data reveal. Although the number of suicide cases has been rising since 2008, the data shows that more men are likely to commit suicide than women. Out of 421 suicide cases on 2017, 330 involved men. The World Health Organization states that close to 800,000 people commit suicide every year, which means one person every 40 seconds. Many more attempt suicide. WHO adds, the World Population Review ranks Kenya at position 114 among 175 countries with the highest suicide rates. Our correspondent, Richie Gideon, has more for you.
A World Health Population Review in its survey states that Kenya's suicide rate is at least 6.5 suicides per 10,000 people. Surprisingly, many of the most troubled nations in the world have comparatively low suicide rates. The lowest suicide rates in the world are connected in the Caribbean island of the Bahamas, Jamaica, Barbados, Antigua, and Barbuda. Suicide is almost unheard in each of these countries. It's not clear yet that the suicide statistics for these countries reflect suicide committed due to the mental health problems and terminal illnesses, which are primary reasons for suicide in most parts of the world, or if they also include suicides committed as part of the ongoing conflicts in these countries, states World Popular Review study. My name is Richard Gideon, and thanks for watching CR7 TV. This is the Connective Room.
I think the cases should be dealt with differently. I also believe that they should be taken to a mental institution so as to gauge where their mental, the state of their brain, right? That's it. Yeah. So that you don't just assume they were trying to take away our life, and then you don't end up treating the underlying causes of what caused it to begin with.
They should not really be taken to a prison, because that's not like finding a solution for them. It's like in other ways they can find ways uko kwa prison na wanaweza commit suicide huko. So I think the best way is to take them to a rehabilitation center. Maybe they can get help, wanaweza ongeleshwa, they can like find someone to talk to, confide in, and after all, like they can just like find a solution, reform back, and reduce such cases from happening.
And now we are joined live by our analyst, Samuel Karanja. Welcome, Mr. Karanja. What does the law state as punishment for attempted suicide?
According to the law, under the Penal Code of Kenya, under section 226, it says that any person who attempts to commit suicide is guilty of a misdemeanor. Under section 36 of the same Penal Code defines what a misdemeanor is, and basically it provides the punishment. It meets the punishment that is to be given to a person who attempts the suicide, and normally it is either 2 years imprisonment or a fine or both.
What could you say are some of the reasons for the increased number of suicide attempts?
Mostly, in most cases for suicide, depression is a major key or the major problem in suicide cases. You find that a lot of youth are really depressed with their circumstances. Maybe things are not working out the way they want, and they feel like they are at a point in their life that they are really low, and they really contemplate committing suicide. And therefore, really, by the time someone is really thinking about committing suicide, they have really undergone a lot of mental torture in terms of the thinking of how to better their lives, and basically they're not getting any solutions, and therefore they just opt to kill themselves just to end their troubles.
Do you find this punishment too harsh for those who attempt suicide, or they should be sent to prison?
Personally, I think this law is quite archaical. Like, it is in the past. These are things that used to happen in the past. Right now, these people who are thinking about committing suicide are mentally ill, and they need psychiatric help. And the fact that you are prosecuting them really doesn't help their situation. And what I think the law was envisaging was the fact that if they think about prosecuting someone for attempting suicide, then it will deter people from committing suicide. But now you find that since people are aware of the fact that if I try and commit suicide, I might be imprisoned, they will ensure that when they try it, they die. You see? So really, it doesn't really help the situation. I think they need more counseling and more psychiatric help.
Those sentenced to prison, are they provided with counselors to help them cope?
I don't think there are any counselors that really help these people, because they are all bundled as one unit. They are all criminals. So they go through the system as it doesn't matter whether you murdered, whether you committed suicide, whether you stole. Really, the law just applies to you. You're there to be corrected for your wrongs, and therefore they don't really counsel the prisoners themselves.
Since they do not get the help that they need when imprisoned, doesn't it mean that they are likely to commit the same crime again.
Actually, statistically, it has been shown that people who have tried committing suicide normally end up trying to commit the same act, the suicide act, again. And chances are they will ensure that they succeed the second time, because already they have been through this shame and mental torture from the society itself. Like, you know, you have survived the fact that you tried committing suicide. Everyone doesn't want to relate with you. The law always is against you. So once they are given another opportunity, once they decide they're going to go on that line, they must ensure that they succeed. So really, it doesn't really help if you incarcerate them and then you let them out. It just makes the matter worse. It doesn't help the situation.
Thank you very much, Mr. Karanja, for the analysis on attempted suicide. Up next is the gender pay gap at the workplace. We will be back after the break. Don't go anywhere.
Dry Fresh deodorants for longer lasting fresh fragrance.
You maximum protection and care to feel fresh all day. Everything else, get it yourself. Nivea Men. It starts with you.
Men should not be paid more for performing a particular job just because they are men. The Equal Pay Act of 1963 made it a federal requirement that pay scales for identical work be the same regardless of whether the employee doing the labor is male or female. If a woman works the same hours, performs the same tasks, and is required to meet the same goals as her male counterpart, she is entitled to equal pay. When women are paid less because of their gender, it is a form of sex discrimination and it is illegal. Our correspondent, Olivia Madenge, has more for you.
On average, a woman earns 80.5 cents for every dollar a man earns, and women's median annual earnings are $10.86 less than men's, according to data from the 2017 U.S. Census Bureau. The percentage increases sum out for female workers between the ages of 25 and 34, indicating that women outside of this range fare worse when it comes to pay equality. Women within this range earned 90% of men's salaries and wages, although this is still insignificantly less than equal.
Prejudice against women, and I also think there's a social component and a psychological one. I think that most times women don't have the self-esteem or the confidence to go ask for what they're worth.
Women must work on average an additional 44 days to earn the same annual salaries as their male counterparts. Even in job categories such as childcare that are predominantly occupied by women, they still only earn about 95% of men's wages for performing the same jobs. While progress has been made towards pay partially between the sexes over the past 55 years, the Institute for Women's Policy Research estimates that it will not be reached until 2059. My name is Olivia Madenge, and thanks for watching CR7 TV. This is the Connective Room.
And now we're joined live by our analyst. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
What is the gender gap and how is it measured in Africa?
Gender pay gap, especially in the United Nations, is not there. United Nations treats both gender equally in terms of payment, depending on your qualifications and your level of engagement. The gender parity does not apply in the United Nations.
What are the causes of the gender pay gap?
The causes of gender pay gap basically applies in the various setups. I've told you the UN probably is not a factor, but if you look at the other areas of employment in terms of the private sector, in terms of government, the gender, the ladies or the women basically are associated with the lighter duties, are associated with household activities, and that makes their contribution to be taken a little bit less which other organizations are not true, but still a practice. You realize that men are taken to be the breadwinners of their families, and therefore chances are men will be promoted earlier, will be getting better pay. And I think those are assumptions that should not be true, but unfortunately that is being practiced.
Has there been any progress in reducing the gender pay gap?
Yes, there are affirmative actions both locally and nationally, ensuring that all the positions, ladies, women are given equal representation as men. And in terms of payment, people are advocating for equal pay. There is an effort both locally and internationally, and in the due course, we shall reach there.
What does the UN recommendation on pay transparency propose?
Pay transparency basically is to ensure that the payments are done in such a way that the salary scale is known to everybody else. The salary scale don't discriminate against any gender, and the UN is in the forefront to ensure that everybody is treated equally without no discrimination on any front.
What can a woman do against wage differences?
Against wage difference, women should continue to lobby, just as they've continued to lobby and advocate for equal payment. Women should join the international and the national movements to support equal employment and equal salaries that is going around. Women should go to school and take jobs that were initially meant for men. There should also be need to diversify our cultural practices where women are associated with daily house chores and to go out and to be counted in the professional jobs outside.
Thank you for that detailed analysis.
Thank you so much.
Attacks by white extremists are growing, and so are their connections. In a manifesto posted online before his attack, the gunman who killed 50 people last month in a rampage at 2 mosques in Christchurch, New Zealand, said he drew inspiration from white extremist terrorism attacks in Norway, the United States, Italy, Sweden, and the United Kingdom. His reference to those attacks placed him in an information global network of white extremists whose violent attacks are occurring with greater frequency in the West. At least a third of white extremist killers since 2011 were inspired by others who perpetrated similar attacks, professed a reverence for them, or showed an interest in their tactics. Our correspondent Isaac Makembo has more for you.
The connections between the killers spans continents and highlight how the internet and social media have facilitated the speed of white extremist ideology and violence. In one instant, a school shooter in New Mexico corresponded with a gunman who attacked a mall in Manich. Altogether, they killed 11 people. One object of fascination for the Christchurch killer and at least 4 other white extremists was Anders Behring, the far-right extremist who killed 77 in a bombing and mass shooting in Norway in 2011. Mr. Behring's lengthy manifesto offered a litany of grievances about immigration and slum, and the attacks became a model for future ones. Shortly after the Norway massacre, a prominent American white supremacist named Frazier Glenn Miller wrote on a white supremacist forum that Mr. Behring had inspired young Ryan men to action. Mr. Behring was not the only one to inspire copycats. The Christchurch shooter also paid tribute to a Canadian man who opened fire inside a city mosque in 2017, writing his name on the guns he used in his attack. My name is Isaac Makembo, and thanks for watching CR7 TV.
First of all, I'm not religious. I don't believe in religion. because it was something that was brought to us by colonizers. So, extremism is it's just a perception of things.
And now we are joined live by our analyst, Pastor Espero Fumungoya. Welcome, Pastor.
Pleasure.
What does the law state about religious expression?
Oh, thank you for your question. What I know about religion expression, about the law, first of all, I don't know really about Kenya, but where I came from in the country, what you're supposed to do when you go and you have, for example, a denomination or a church, you go, you register, they give you your registration number, you can start your church and start worshiping, no problem. So there is no way if you get your paper and everything to do not worship.
Are extremists a threat to freedom of religious expression?
I don't think, a real, okay, here I'm talking as a Christian, not as any religion member. I'm talking as a Christian. As a Christian, nothing can fail you to worship God, okay? Even if there is trouble, even if there is, in the book of Psalm 34, you're gonna see where the Bible says that I will praise my Lord in every circumstance, everywhere. So I don't think like because of that act can be something can like refuse Christian to worship God. Me, I don't think it can be some of the things can be there to be like a barrier for us to worship God.
Would extremists be a reason for worshippers to stay away from worship centers due to fear?
Yes, it can be also. Like the first question that you asked me, and if you are truly fear God, if you are truly a Christian, going to a place, worship God, it's not necessary. Going to, like you have to go, it's a must, you have to go to church to worship. You can worship God everywhere where you want. If those kind of attacks continue, me I think you allowed yourself like to stay at your home instead of to go and risk your life there. You're supposed just to go there because and I have to go and worship God and with the assembly and tu vois comme en français on dit comme Paul est en train de dire que nous puissions pas refuser, que nous puissions pas refuser nos ensembles, que nous puissions aller tous. Yeah, it can be like that, but me, I don't think as a real Christian it can be one of the things can be a barrier for you.
What would you say drives these extremists to perform these acts in places of worship?
Commit such acts against religious places of worship.
Yeah, what I think also, what is good, we have to know the definition of that extremism. You see, there are those kind of people, they think like what they do, they are like ultra, like what we say in French, quelqu'un qui croit qu'il est plus élevé que les autres. You see, he thinks like him, what he said or what he believes, it's better than others people. You see, so for them, they think just all of us we're supposed to follow what they do, what they believe. You see, what is wrong? We have that freedom, and like the Bible says that I put two ways for you, bad and good. You see, you have to choose. So me, I think we have that freedom.
Are these attacks by extremists a sign of end times?
Yeah, I think so, because if you go to the book of Matthew chapter 24, where Jesus Christ was talking about the end of the time, he was saying that if you see the abomination in the church, and if you see, you're gonna see many war, you're gonna see another brother and against attack another brother, and you're gonna see some of the family will have trouble. In the end of the time, things will be very hard. I think this can be one of the signs of the end of the time.
Thank you very much, Pastor Espero, for that wonderful analysis. We will be back after the break. Keep it CR7 TV.
Beat sensitivity pain fast with Sensodyne Rapid Relief.
Quote of the day: I found nothing in life is worthwhile unless you take risks. If I'm going to fall, I don't want to fall back on anything. I want to fall forward. I figured at least this way I'll see what I am going to hit. This quote is by Denzel Washington. That's all we had for you on this episode. Thanks for watching The Connective Room. Kindly like, share, and subscribe so that you can stay updated when the next episode is uploaded. Cheers.